The lecture hall fell silent as Elena stepped through the doorway. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the razor-sharp quiet of prey animals sensing danger. Professor Zelthar's chromatophores rippled yellow with alarm. The Zenthari instructor had taught Xenobiology 301 for 47 cycles, had seen countless species present their homeworld's apex predators, always safely contained, always properly restrained. He had seen Kralian students bring holographic projections of their world's great hunters. He had watched Viridian scholars present preserved specimens in stasis fields. Never had he seen a student simply carry 2 living predators into his classroom. Elena smiled, seemingly oblivious to the 36 alien students pressing themselves against the far walls. On her shoulders, 2 golden-furred cubs surveyed the room with bright, curious eyes. The smaller one made a sound, something between a rumble and a chirp, and several students bolted for the exits. "Please," Elena said, her voice calm and gentle. "They're completely safe. This is exactly what Professor Zelthar asked for, a presentation on Earth's predators." Zelthar's tentacles twitched. "Miss Reeves, the assignment was to present information about a predator from your homeworld, analysis, data, perhaps visual documentation." His translator struggled to convey his mounting distress. "Not to bring cubs of what species are those?" "African lions," Elena replied cheerfully. The bolder cub, Terran she'd called him during registration, yawned, displaying teeth that seemed disproportionately large for his small frame. "Panthera leo, apex predator of the African savanna. Well, one of them?" "One of them?" squeaked Pryl, a Vexian student whose fur had puffed to twice its normal volume. Elena carefully lifted Terran from her shoulder, cradling the cub against her chest. He immediately began to purr, a sound that resonated through the lecture hall like distant thunder. The students who remained looked ready to phase through the walls. "I understand this is alarming," Elena continued, stroking Terran's head with practiced ease. "But that's precisely why I brought them. To demonstrate something fundamental about humanity that most species find difficult to comprehend." Zelthar's color shifted to orange, cautious interest overriding fear. "Explain." Elena set Terran on the presentation platform. The cub immediately began exploring, batting at the holographic controls with oversized paws. His sibling, smaller, quieter, remained on Elena's shoulder, watching the room with eyes that tracked every movement. Most species that achieve spacefaring technology follow a similar evolutionary path, Elena began. Falling into the cadence of a practiced lecturer, prey species develop intelligence to outwit predators. They create tools, build societies, and eventually reach for the stars. The Zenthari, the Viridians, the Kralians, all prey species that evolved to avoid danger. She paused, letting that sink in. Humans are different. We're not prey species that learn to fight. We're predators that learn to think. Terran chose that moment to pounce on a stylus that had rolled to the floor. The movement was pure predatory grace. The coiled preparation, the explosive strike, the satisfied grab. Several students flinched. "But Miss Reeves," Professor Zelthar interjected, his scientific curiosity beginning to override his instincts. "Humans are not apex predators in the traditional sense. You lack natural weapons, enhanced speed, armored hides." "Exactly," Elena grinned. "We're persistence predators. We don't have the tools built in, so we made them. We can't run fast for short bursts, so we learned to run slowly for days. We hunted animals to exhaustion. We threw spears because our teeth weren't sharp enough. We mastered fire because our skin wasn't thick enough." She picked up Terran, who protested briefly before settling into her arms. "And somewhere along that journey we developed something unusual. We learned to see other predators not as competition, but as companions." The quiet cub on her shoulder nuzzled against Elena's cheek. "These cubs," Elena continued, "are orphans. Their mother was killed by poachers, other humans who forgot what it means to be stewards of our world. In 2 months, Terran and his sister will be transported to a conservation habitat where they'll be raised and eventually released into protected territories. But right now they needed care. Feeding every 4 hours. Warmth. Socialization." She looked around the room, making eye contact with each student who dared to meet her gaze. Every human child knows the story of the wolf who became a dog. The wild predator who chose to live alongside us, to hunt with us, to protect us. We did the same with cats, with horses, with falcons. We looked at creatures designed by evolution to kill, and we said, you could be family. Terran stretched, his claws extending and retracting lazily. In the harsh lighting of the lecture hall, he looked simultaneously adorable and lethal, a perfect embodiment of Elena's point. That's what makes humanity dangerous, Elena said softly. Not our weapons, not our technology. It's that we look at the deadliest creatures in the universe and our first instinct isn't to run or fight. It's to ask, can I pet it? Professor Zelthar's chromatophores rippled through a complex pattern of colors, understanding mixed with a healthy dose of continued alarm. That is a terrifying evolutionary trait, Miss Reeves. Elena laughed, the sound warm and genuine. Terran added his own rumbling purr to the mix. Oh, Professor, you haven't even heard about our relationship with bears yet. The lecture continued for another hour. By the end, 3 students had cautiously approached to observe the cubs more closely. Terran, true to his bold nature, attempted to play with a Vexian's tail. His sister finally left Elena's shoulder to investigate a datapad. As the class filed out, still maintaining a respectful distance, Professor Zelthar approached Elena. You made your point effectively, he admitted, though I suspect I'll be filing incident reports for weeks. Elena smiled, settling both cubs back onto her shoulders. Sometimes the best way to understand humanity is to see us in action. We're not the strongest, fastest, or smartest species in the galaxy, but we're the ones who looked at nature's perfect killing machines and said, let's be friends. She paused at the doorway. That should terrify you far more than any predator ever could. Terran yawned again, his dangerous teeth gleaming. Professor Zelthar decided that humanity had earned its place among the stars, and that perhaps the galaxy should be very, very careful about underestimating them.